Big game James Allen is with us here. He covered the whole weekend, covered yesterday, and will be covering all week. And we welcome him to our show. Little impromptu. We always have Big Game on Friday. We bring him on the Monday show as we recap the weekend. Big Game, Roger and Zach, good morning.
Morning, Roger.
Let's start with those double A's because that's what we've been hot on here. Let's start with the Colony Green Tech game. I mean, how close was that to being a heck of an upset by Green Tech?
One possession game, big block shot by Brennan Molson. Otherwise, maybe Tobias Holmes finishes that bucket, and you got the Eagles in the semis as the 9th seed. If you look at how it played out, you had basically a one possession game from being the 1, 2, and the 4 seeds being out in the first games that they played. So I've been saying it all along that I think the double A's are pretty wide open. I think it sort of played out that way. Colony's still the team to beat. They've got 2 more wins to go, but I think that LaSalle showed that they may be in the Colonial Council, and but they played well. I mean, yeah, Shen doesn't have Luke Hicks, but they won that game from the jump. They were out. They got out to the lead. They dictated how the game was played. They played really well. And they got a lot of contributions. And even when their offense dissipated in the second half, they only had 4 baskets. They still, a lot of times when you see a team like that go away offensively, they confound it by letting up on the defensive end. And LaSalle didn't do that, and they deserved to win. And I think you look at Schenectady's performance and of the 4, that was the most impressive. I mean, they were as good as I've seen them all year long. They really played well, both ends of the floor. They got great play from their guards, and their top 2 guys really did yeoman's work at both ends of the floor, and they deserve to be where they are.
Yeah, because I thought Saratoga coming into to this whole thing is playing really well. Adam Anderson, they had the big win over Shen in their home court, and a lot of momentum going in. And Schenectady goes up against CBA in that first round, and CBA given them trouble just a couple of weeks ago, but they were able to get by CBA in a relatively close game, and then they blow out Saratoga. Now that sets up Colony and Schenectady on Tuesday night at the Glen Swell Civic Center. And then Colony will have their hands full here as Schenectady's guards play the way they did. And it's going to be a contrast in styles, right? Big game. You're going to have Schenectady wants to fly up and down that court and get transition baskets. And if you're Colony, you want to do everything you can to slow them down, get them in a half court, dump the ball into Isaiah Mall.
I agree, Roger. But, here's the thing. I think one of the things that you have to look at with Schenectady is, yeah, they do want to get up and down, but look at what they did against Saratoga in the half court. They carved them up. So, if they can play that way and get that ball movement and get contributions, I mean, they the Jesus had a couple big threes in that first quarter. He really set the tone for them. Saratoga couldn't just slough off and go after Jenkins and Riles. They had to honor everybody. And if they can do the same thing against Colony, it's going to be a game right down to the end, because when Schenectady plays that way at both ends of the floor, they're very, very dangerous.
And then you look at Bethlehem now. They're sitting there, and here comes LaSalle, right? You got LaSalle and Bethlehem, and that, again, I haven't seen LaSalle, to be honest with you. I've seen Bethlehem a couple times. I'm always impressed. Not that they have, like, the one-star player, but I like the way they play, I like their style, I like what they run, well-coached. LaSalle well-coached. What do you expect with Bethlehem and LaSalle?
A very interesting game, Roger. I covered the game that they played. They actually played during the regular season. They played in the final of the CBA tournament, and it was a pretty good game through about 3 quarters, and then ultimately Bethlehem, kind of pulled away and made it a little bit of a lopsided score. But LaSalle, I think is a team that, obviously because they don't play a regular double-A schedule anymore, they're sort of an unknown entity to a lot of people, but they've got some really good players. Delalo, Joe Delalo, the lefty, 6'8", really versatile player. He's not just a low-post guy. He can move. He can shoot from 3-point range. He's got a nice little game around the basket as well. And they've got a lot of their support players that, know their roles. They very disciplined style. And, Steve Scambolari's done a great job of really getting them to believe that, this team is somebody that a lot of people overlooked, and they played that way. They played with a chip on their shoulders, and there was no doubt. Anybody that watched that game, Roger, against Shen knows that they were the better team. From the outset of that game, they were the better team. They can play with Bethlehem, and Bethlehem's going to have to raise their level. They didn't play their best against Albany. They were very much in peril themselves of not getting through. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think if LaSalle can get off the kind of start they had against Shen, they can stay with them.
James, what do you make of the Class A ranks? I had a chance to go to Hudson Valley yesterday and watch my alma mater, Scotia, really put it to Hudson Falls. But there's a terrific Lansingburg team there, and Scotia's going to have to play a really good Averill Park team. How do you see that shaping up?
I think, Zach, that's going to be a very, very, very interesting game between Scotia and Averill Park. Averill Park, as Mahonison and Fort Hills have to do, they have to play those AA teams throughout the season. They've had some really good wins. They had a horrible performance Averill Park did against Colony. They were down 33-0 at the beginning of the month, and it actually made it. They wound up losing by 20, but it was a game they were never in. And since then, they've won 4 in a row. They played a couple of those A teams at the end of their season. And Averill Park's got a team that, they've got a nice point guard in Noah Yearsley that can shoot the ball from the outside, but he can get to the rim as well. You got a lot of other guys that just kind of fit in roles. And, always what it comes down to at Averill Park is can they play offensively well enough? And I think this team can. Defensively, they're going to hang in. They know what Scotia can do. And Scotia's certainly the favorite in that game, but I think Averill Park definitely can win the game. And I think it's going to be a very compelling game when we get to Wednesday.
And in the Bs, are we looking at Glens Falls and McKeel in a championship? Is that the collision course we're on here?
It looks that way, Roger. But, Glens Falls has had the bugaboo all year long, playing very poorly in the first half and then, just completely destroying teams in the second half. And they've been able to get away with it throughout the season. They were able to get away with it against Chaumont the other night in the quarterfinals. But I don't think you can keep doing that. They may be able to get through even the semifinal game, but you get down to the end, and you got to have to play, potentially McKeel if McKeel can get by Voorheesville. And I think, McKeel, the way they played and the way they looked, boy, I mean, they've got it going on right now. That's a team that won at Green Tech by 17 a couple weeks ago and won that game from the outset and destroyed Green Tech really in the second half. And they can spread the floor. They got a great point guard, Deontay Holder, and they got a lot of other guys that can score the ball, and they can play both ends of the floor. And it's going to be a very interesting beast. I mean, it played that way last year. It looks like these semifinals and finals in B are going to be compelling once again, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that possibility of that potential McKeel Glens Falls final. But they both have work to do if they want to stay undefeated, get to the final.
Big game, James Allen. Always a pleasure. A little impromptu for you, my man. We'll talk to you later on in the week. As we're gonna crown Section 2 champions here this week in high school basketball.
Sounds good, Roger.
Thank you, Big Game. Good stuff.